Commissioner Amadeo can't be here today.
Okay.
So you know.
Do we have AMP on board, or yeah, I see we do.
I'm here, but my camera's not working right now.
Okay.
Just change my back. One, two, three, four. Okay, I'm ready whenever AMP is ready.
Let me ask if let me ask the AMP staff. Are you guys ready? I don't hear anything. They don't have audio right now. So
Okay. I think they're ready. I see their stream on YouTube. So
okay, perfect.
are you good to go, Guido?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Welcome. It is September 22nd. This is our regular Planning Commission meeting. My name is Brian McCarthy. I'm the vice chair serving as chair today, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can we get a roll call and establishment of quorum, please?
Sure. Vice Chair McCarthy,
Here.
Commissioner Herr,
Here.
Commissioner Rana,
Yeah.
Commissioner St. John,
Here.
Commissioner Walton,
Here.
Commissioner Whitson.
Here.
And Chair Amadeo has a personal appointment, so she's not going to be here today. So you have quorum, Chair.
Fantastic. Thank you. If you please join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty. Excellent. All right. This is the time for special announcements and communications from the floor. Any member of the public would like to make an announcement or speak to something that is not on tonight's agenda. If you'd like to speak on anything that is on the agenda, please wait until the appropriate agenda item comes up. And I am not seeing anyone. So we will bring it, close general public comment, bring it back to the dais. Any members of the commission like to make a comment? Please raise your hand. Not seeing anyone. So we will close item 4, our special announcements, and move on to our consent agenda. Consent agenda has 2 items, Planning Commission action minutes from September 8th. And then the consider site and architectural review of approving a laundry room, which I didn't realize was on the consent agenda. Is that intended? That's not a mistake, correct? I mean, we're considering that as a consent item. Okay.
You're breaking up.
Entertain them. Sorry, can everyone hear me okay now?
Yes.
Items on the consent agenda. Would anyone like to poll any items?
You breaking again?
Please raise your hand. Motion. Still breaking up.
And you're silent from my side.
And frozen on my side.
Looks like he left and he's going to rejoin. That's my guess. Oh,
Okay, can folks hear me now? I apologize.
Yeah.
Okay, let's give this another try. If I break up, please do let me know. I'll try restarting. Again, there's 2 items on our consent agenda. If anyone would like to poll any of the items, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion. Not seeing any hands. Is there a motion to approve consent? If I get a motion, we'll go out to the public and see if there's any.
Chair McCarthy?
Commissioner St. John?
Yeah, the 2 items that are on the consent agenda, the first item is the minutes of the September 8th meeting. You would be looking for a motion to approve those minutes. Then from the packet that I received, there were 2 additional items. One was a laundry addition for a small apartment complex. And the other item was 2 lots that had a total of some 9 or 10 residential type structures. And the item asked for I can't recall exactly the terms, but for something to do with a permit to proceed.
Okay.
The non-conforming agreement.
Yeah.
Nick, so I just pulled the current agenda, and there are 2 items on the consent. Was that the original version of the agenda? Was that how it always has been, or did that change?
Guido, did you want to speak to the agenda as it is, or you want me to respond?
The agenda as written is there's 2 consent items. One is for the minutes, which you guys always do. The other one is a super, super minor project that probably in a couple months we won't be bringing to you guys. It's literally just a laundry room at a existing apartment complex, but the way the code's written for now is we have to take that stuff to you guys, which is a little unfortunate. But we're trying to be transparent and follow the code, so we're trying to put it on consent just to let you guys know about it. It really doesn't engender much conversation. It really is a laundry room. So it's, yeah. So, but we're kind of obligated. I will be changing the code, but for that kind of stuff. But yeah, those are the 2 items. And then the item that Commissioner St. John asked for about the use permit, that actually is a public hearing. Nick has a presentation for that. So, so that actually is a public hearing. So.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner St. John?
Yes, I'm clear.
Okay.
So I would make a motion that we approve the minutes of the September 8th meeting.
Okay, so does that mean you want to pull the laundry room item? Because there's two items on consent, the minutes and the laundry room. So if you would like to approve the consent agenda as a whole, you would just make a motion to approve the consent agenda. If you want to pull an item, you can do that as well.
I would like to make minor comments on the laundry room or questions, but otherwise, just minor.
Okay, yeah, minor questions can be allowed under consent. So why don't you go ahead and make your comments, and we'll go from there. Commissioner St. John.
Yeah, I visited the site, and there the drawing or the plan, I wasn't quite clear exactly where the location of the laundry room. The laundry room, is my understanding, will be a totally separate building, maybe under 100 square feet, but a separate building. and I wasn't entirely clear on where it would be on the plot. And there are 20 parking spaces. And my real question is, will it eliminate one or more parking spaces?
Well, we should probably pull the item, Chair.
Okay. So Commissioner St. John, how about we go with your original motion to approve the minutes and we pull the second item for further discussion?
Agree.
Is there
I
a
second
second?
that.
Is there a second? Thank you. Second by Commissioner Woodson. Any comments from the public? Please raise your hand. Not seeing any. Let's go to a vote on the minutes, please.
Okay, I'll call roll. Vice Chair McCarthy,
Yes.
Commissioner Herr,
Yes.
Commissioner Rana,
Yes.
Commissioner St. John,
Yes.
Commissioner Walton,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So we'll go to the next item, which will be that laundry room item, and we'll move that to, apologize, let me bring up my agenda, which I just lost here. We'll move
It's item 5B.
5B. Okay. Can we get a staff report on that, please?
Sure, Nick can present that.
Is this for the
The laundromat.
laundromat? Sure. So thank you, Planning Commission. I go ahead and pull up let's see. I'm gonna pull up the site plan for this one, just because I think that will help us discuss this. I know the question of whether or not they're going to eliminate any parking spaces came up by Commissioner St. John, and I just wanted to speak to that quickly. So this is a very minor design review. It's going to be for 190 square feet, 190 square foot laundry mat. There's also an accompanying a small bathroom with a toilet and sink on the side of the building. As you can see here on my screen, can you all see my screen okay?
Yep.
So as you can see here, they're planning to redo the parking spaces. Currently, there's 20 spaces with one substandard space that's actually sort of here in this location. And so that's the 21st parking space. There's 20 numbered spaces though, which was originally permitted 20 spaces. And so what they're proposing to do is to shift that one space to that non-conforming extra space, so to speak, to the place where they're going to make a substandard area for no parking. So they're basically moving it to this area and restriping all these and renumbering them. So they're not actually losing any parking spaces. And that's so that way they can get an ADA ramp that meets ADA specifications. It's basically 10 spaces on either side mirrored to mirror the no parking for the trash enclosure, which is on the opposite side. And so this is a very small building built exactly the same shape, color, materials as the main buildings. As you can see, it's a very tiny building. When the people who purchased this property recently, they committed to building this laundry room facility for the existing tenants as a promise that because they all wanted this laundry room, all the tenants of this apartment building. And so this is them following through on their commitment to their tenants. So happy to see a local new property owners following through on their commitments to their tenants to make their units more habitable, again, so they don't have to travel as far to do laundry. So very, very minor project, not going to eliminate any parking spaces, just going to shift that legal that basically extra parking space over. That's more or less the staff report I'm going to give. I didn't prepare actual formal slides for this one since it was on consent, but I'm happy to answer any of the questions. I've spoken with the architect on this project multiple times, so I'm pretty well versed on it. So,
Thank you, Nick. Commissioner St. John, did that answer your question? Do you have additional comments?
No, completely. I totally understand now and appreciate the Nick, all of your input and your perseverance on it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner St. John, and fantastic question. I think that's great that, if there's ever a need for clarity, that those are the kind of questions we should ask. So I appreciate that as well. Any other questions from commissioners? I'm not seeing any. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Sure. I will make a motion that we approve the plans for the apartment complex laundry room facility as designed and submitted.
For a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner St. John. Motion by Commissioner Woodson. I'm going to go ahead and back out to the public just to make sure that we're doing everything right. Any member of the public like to comment on this item? Please raise your hand. Not seeing anyone, so we'll close public comment, bring it back to the commission. Can I get a roll call, please?
Sure. Vice Chair McCarthy,
Yes.
Commissioner Herr,
Yes.
Commissioner Rana,
Yes.
Commissioner St. John,
Yes.
Commissioner Walton,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We will go on to our next public hearing, which is a hearing to consider recommendation of City Council to adopt approving amendments to Articles 1, 2, 4, and Title 7 of the Marina Municipal Code pertaining to small and large family child care homes, daycare centers, supportive housing, and conditional use permits for multifamily housing. A staff report, please.
Contract planner Alec will be providing the presentation.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Commission. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So in June, Allison brought a couple of ordinance modifications to you for reasonable accommodations for persons with disabilities and then the Low Barrier Navigation Center. This is part of our continuing effort to clean up the ordinance and bring it into compliance with state law. So I've got 3 items for you to review tonight, and then Allison will be coming back with another item or 2 in October. Generally minor modifications, but they do bring the code into compliance with state law. So why are these amendments needed tonight? In 2019, the governor signed SB 234, which prohibits municipalities from restricting the use of home child care facilities in residential zones. The year prior, the governor signed AB 2162, which requires that supportive housing is a use that's permitted by right in zones where multifamily and mixed use development is permitted. Marina already had an ordinance, adopted ordinance allowing childcare homes, but there are some changes that were needed to bring that into compliance with SB 234. And then the third change that we're looking at tonight is to comply with Program 3.3 of the city's 5th cycle housing element, which was intended for implementation in 2020 and 2021. And I'll get to that in just a moment. And then the final component of this is that the updates necessitate some basic ordinance cleanup, which we'll go over as well. So let's look at the proposed amendments. First is for small and large family childcare homes. This is to bring the city's municipal code into compliance with California Code of Regulations, Title 22, Division 12, which regulates these childcare homes. The state law included updates to capacity. So small childcare homes can now include up to 8 children, and large childcare homes 9 to 14 children. And so the city's code has been updated to reflect that information. There's also been some minor adjustments to definitions. Previously, the city referred to them as daycare homes, but the state's definition is childcare homes. And so we've made that adjustment for consistency with state law. There's also a clarification that fire safety clearance is required only of large family childcare homes and cannot be required of small family childcare homes. And then finally, the existing municipal code includes parking provisions for daycare centers, which is a separate type of use. It's more of a commercial use than a residential use. And so we're proposing to move that section to a more appropriate section where the parking regulations are maintained. The second set of amendments is for supportive housing. This would remove supportive housing as a conditional use in the planned commercial or PC zone. State law is very clear that municipalities cannot require supportive housing to have a conditional use permit. It's a permitted by right use. So that needs to be struck from the conditional use in the PC zone. It would also add supportive housing as a permitted use in the planned commercial C1 and C2 zones. AB 2162 isn't super clear on whether supportive housing is a by right use in zones where other uses, residential uses, are only conditionally permitted. And that's what's currently the case in these 3 zones. But we did look to other municipalities for guidance on this point, and Pasadena, Morro Bay, and Santa Monica are 3 examples of communities that allow supportive housing as a by right use in commercial districts where other residential uses are only conditionally permitted. And so we would recommend that similar changes be made to the ordinance for that purpose. The final set of updates would be in regards to multifamily housing. Currently, multifamily housing in the R4 multifamily residential zone requires a conditional use permit if the density is 25 units per acre or greater. The 5th cycle housing element identified a series of programs intended to make it easier to permit housing for throughout the city for a variety of income types. And one of the intended programs, 3.3, was to remove the conditional use permit requirement for any residential density in the R4 zone. And so this change to the ordinance would bring the code into compliance with that program. I will note here that design review would still be required for these projects. So we'd still be coming to the Planning Commission for design review for any multifamily residential projects, but the conditional use permit would no longer be required. And then the other changes that we would recommend would just be simplifying the list of multifamily uses in all relevant zones. The current code is a little verbose in the way that it lists those uses, and so we've tried to tidy that up a little bit. Just a few final notes. The actions would be exempt from CEQA. CEQA applies only to projects that have the potential for causing a significant effect on the environment. None of these changes rise to that threshold. And then I'll just note as a final note here that state legislation is moving in the direction of by right status for multifamily uses, regardless of density in commercial zones, with some exceptions and requirements. So we'll continue to follow bills that are being looked at in the legislature and provide you updates and updates to the municipal code as necessary to ensure that we're in compliance with state law. That's my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Alex. If commissioners have any questions on the presentation, please raise your hand. No one, not seeing. There we go. Commissioner Walton, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. So I just wanted to know, or if you could just explain a little bit more about what you mean when you say that the state is moving in the direction of by right permitting, regardless of density. Like, yeah, if you could just explain that a little bit more. I want to wrap my head around it. Thank you.
Sure, I can take a first pass at this, and then maybe Guido, you can chime in with more information as well. But there's a variety of bills that the legislature has looked at. Some have passed, some are waiting signature. Some have been looked at but haven't passed that would change the way that residential projects are permitted at a local level in commercial zones. And the intent is to make it easier to permit housing closer to transit and to reduce some of those barriers. Do you have anything to add, Guido, on that?
No, that's basically they're trying to streamline development, and if you meet all the objective criteria in the code, and we are going to be working on that here in the next couple months, then the city basically has to give the permit. And so, yeah, Alex summarized it correctly. So we're really trying to clean up the code here tonight to be compliant with previous housing element cycles and programs that the city promised the state that they would do. And then also clean up from previous legislative cycles. And what I'm trying to do is build a culture of as soon as bills get passed, that we have study sessions with the commission and then quickly make the changes to the code so that we're not playing catch up. About 15 minutes ago before the meeting, the governor signed a bill eliminating parking requirements around certain transit-oriented developments. And so we're going to be taking a look at that. But yeah, just trying to build that culture of making sure the code itself is up to date so we're not playing catch up. So
I appreciate you and all of the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Walton. Any other questions from commissioners? Not seeing any. I had one quick question for Alec. You mentioned that you had looked at some cities that, and I think what I heard was had followed this kind of way of not requiring the CUP, but having design guidelines. Is that, when you mentioned the other cities that you looked at, is that what you were saying? Is that those cities were following that process?
Thank you for the question, Chair. That's a good question. So the most cities do require design review for multifamily residential projects, regardless of the zone in which those projects will be located. What I was trying to say is that, and the other thing is that most communities don't allow residential uses as even a conditional use, a standalone conditional use in commercial zones. They're often allowed as a mixed use development, but I couldn't find any examples of communities that had conditional multifamily residential use in commercial zones that didn't also allow supportive housing as a by right use. Most communities simply don't allow conditional multifamily uses in commercial zones. So the three examples that I provided, Pasadena, Morro Bay, Santa Monica, are similar to Marina in that they do allow conditional multifamily uses, and all three of those allow supportive housing as a by right use in those commercial zones.
Thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. Let's go out to the public and then we'll come back for a potential motion if that's okay with the commission. Any member of the public like to comment on this item, please raise your hand. You'll be given up to 4 minutes to do so. Not seeing any, we will close public comment and bring it back to the commission. Commissioners, any discussion or possible motion? Not seeing any hands yet. Give you guys a couple more minutes and I'll step in if I don't see any hands. All right. I will make a motion then to adopt amendments to Articles 1, 2, and 4 of Title 7 of the Marina Municipal Code pertaining to small and large child care homes, daycare centers, supportive housing, and conditional use permit for multifamily housing. Is there a second?
Sure, I will second it. Or let Commissioner Rana do it, since I already took one.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Rana. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any hands. I'll just add one kind of piece of 2 cents. I mean, this is a classic kind of case, right, of local control. I think it's a good idea, and it's why I made the motion. But there's some impacts to not having local control, and our planning commissions across the state are continuously getting stripped of that local control, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think this staff recommendation is definitely the right one to make, and I'm happy to be supporting it tonight. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? All right, let's go ahead and go to roll call vote then, please. You're muted, Guido.
Chair McCarthy,
Yes.
Commissioner Herr,
Yes.
Commissioner Rana,
Yes.
Commissioner St. John,
Yes.
Commissioner Walton,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodson.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our next public hearing then, our last public hearing of the night. To take any testimony from the public, consider adopting a resolution to approve a CUP 2022-01 to restore the legal non-conforming residential use of 9 detached units on 2 parcels located at 3289 and 3295 Drew Street. Staff report, please.
Yes, that will be done by Nick. So
Thank you, Chair and Guido. Just going to full screen my presentation. All right, so today we'll be talking about 3289 and 3295 Drew Street. These are 2 parcels located on Drew Street, right along the freeway, right along Highway 1. Developed back in the 1930s, so they've been around for a very long time. On the bigger of the 2 parcels, site 1, it's 39,000 square feet. The smaller parcel is 21,000 square feet. So they're very large parcels. As you can see here, this is a site plan from the staff report. You can see the actual units on the site. There's 2 units on this site. This 3295C is actually originally a garage, so they're going to be converting it back to its original use as a 2-car garage. And then they're going to be keeping 3295B and 3295A. And then on site 1, there's the 7 units. 6 of them are identical, and 1 of them is slightly different. So this became a project that needed to go before you. The story starts back in June of 2020 when the water main broke with the previous ownership. So this was owned by a previous owner, used as rental properties for many, many years. The original owner, or one of the original owners, I'm not quite sure, they developed it in the 30s, but he lived on site 2 and rented out the rest of the units for below market rate. So didn't put a lot of money back into these units. So they basically stayed as rentals for many, many years. And so when the water main broke, the 2 daughters of the original owner decided to not fix it for a while to try to get the rest of the tenants out because they had been there for so long. And so they became vacant by January of 2021. And then they actually fixed the water main in February of 2021. And then basically waited a few more months and then put the property on the market. At which point Seneca Family Homes bought it. And it had been way past the 6-month for a legal non-conforming use to become abandoned. So they bought it as a abandoned use. And so today Seneca Family Homes is applying to reinstate this legal non-conforming use. So the site, I went through and looked through the general plan and looked for consistencies with it. And the general plan talks about maintaining and not abandoning housing. And so this is a chance to restore some existing dwelling units and then have them be preserved, which is part of the goals of the general plan policy 2.22. And then in general plan policy 4.80, it talks about different types of housing. And so even though this is legal non-conforming, it was developed, under previous zoning. And they're very large sites. They combine to be 1.39 acres. And so the the density comes out to be about 6.5 units per acre, which is, if you look at the R1 zoning or single family zoning in the general plan, it's 5 units per acre. But if you look at any of our specific plans, it's actually 5 to 7 units per acre. And so this is really right in that single family zoning units per acre. So it's a little bit above, but it's not too far above. And if you take into consideration accessory dwelling units, it's well below what you'd expect to see if someone developed a site with modern zoning tools and planning tools. And then we come to the legal nonconforming side of this section. So in the legal nonconforming section, it says that the Planning Commission has the authority to reinstate, abandoned legal nonconforming sites and uses. And so the proposal is to restore that site and make it habitable and safe, and really resurrect these sort of neglected units and make them habitable again. And staff believes that this will not be detrimental to the health, safety, peace, morals, comfort, and general welfare of this neighborhood, and also as Marina as a whole. So staff is recommending to open a public hearing, of course, and then as well as to adopt a resolution approving the removal of, pardon me, this is the, oh, sorry. That was the wrong motion, pardon me. I'm gonna switch to the staff report, pardon me. Sorry, to approve the conditional use permit UP 2022-01 to restore the legal and conforming residential use of 9 detached units and on 2 parcels located at 3289 and 3295 Drew Street. And this project is exempt from CEQA under existing facilities. So that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions about the site, about this unusual type of use permit, and then the process and any other questions you might have for staff. So,
Thank you, Nick. Commissioners, any questions about the staff report? Not seeing any hands. I'll give you a second, and then we'll go to the applicant if they have a presentation. Commissioner Walton.
Sorry
Please
about
go
that.
ahead.
Yeah, I don't really have a question, but just the amount of work that went into looking at all of the renovations and work that needs to be done to restore this project. Like, kudos and thank you for doing that work. It's impressive what it looks like. Seneca, is it Seneca? Is looking to do in this restoration for this project. And I don't know, I think, are there representatives? Are we going to have an opportunity to listen to what they're going to do with the property once it's restored, or will that be in a different presentation? Thank you.
I can answer that quickly. Yes, we have 4 representatives from Seneca Family Homes here on the call. 2 of them are going to give a presentation after you have questions for me, and then there's also 2 other people from their organization that are happy to answer more questions as needed. So got a whole team here. So
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Walton. Thank you, Nick. Any other questions about the staff report from commissioners? Commissioner Woodson, please go ahead.
Well, I think I actually put my hand down. I'm gonna wait. I'll come back after the presentation.
Okay. I have 2 quick questions. First one is the Planning Commission the final decision on this, or does this go to City Council? And then second question is, would this be considered supportive housing as we've been talking about in the last couple of meetings? Or is that something else altogether?
So to answer your first question, it does not need to go to City Council. This is just a Planning Commission action to reinstate this use. And to answer your second question, so what you're approving today is specifically reauthorizing the nonconformities of this site. If if Seneca Family Homes wants to convert this from residential uses to supportive housing, as we've been hearing about in the last few months in other districts, they do not need to get any more approvals. So it would just be a staff level approval at that point. So it's a permitted use. So yeah.
Okay. And I do have one other question, actually. You spoke briefly about ADUs. And as we know that, certain residential properties have by right ability to build out JADUs and regular ADUs. So there's 9 properties here. I think there was initially, I thought I saw 10 somewhere, but does that mean that they would have the right to build up to 40 units on that property? Or is there, because of setbacks and things like that, is there some other mix that might be possible?
So yeah, they're still held to the R1 standards. The only way they could build 40 units on the site is if they went through a zoning ordinance and a general plan change, which would be a much more involved process and would most likely require them to tear down those existing detached small units. So under the R1 zoning, they're over density for single parcels for both lots. So they're considered legal non-conforming as multifamily, but they're still held to the R1 standards. So the only thing they can really do with our non-conforming chapter, it's a pretty restrictive chapter. They're really not allowed to do much of these homes. The main thing they can do is make them habitable and restore them. They're also allowed, the accessory dwelling unit ordinance really sort of supersedes our zoning ordinance a little bit. If you read the HCD handbook, they're not required to fix a legal non-conforming issue to build ADUs. So that means that they could build ADUs by right. And since they're considered multifamily homes, they're allowed to build 2 detached accessory dwelling units per parcel, and then 1 internal. The internal is tricky because they don't really have a lot of buildings that would be big enough to convert to an internal ADU, except for that site that had that 3rd unit on it. So they could one day come back and say, we want to convert this 2-car garage to an internal ADU. That's up to them. But that would be a total of 15 units. So not a huge amount of units. You probably could get more even with R1 zoning by subdividing these lots and using some other ordinances and whatnot. And in talking to them over the last few months, I believe their intention is to really make these habitable and nice units to be used for many years to come. So it's really, there's preservation and restoration at this point, and they may add some at a future date, but that's not more than 15 is what I expect.
Thank you, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with that, I'm actually super excited to hear the presentation from Seneca. So let's turn it over to whoever's going to be leading that.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Commission. Letitia, I think, is going to manage my PowerPoint for me. So as she's pulling that up, let's just do a couple of quick introductions. My name is Dawn Henson. I am the Executive Director for Seneca here in the Central Coast.
Hi, everyone. I'm Letitia Gallion. I'm Seneca's CEO and want to make sure everyone can see the PowerPoint deck. Please tell me if you can't see that. Thank you. And I'll pass to Ken Barrick, our CEO Emeritus and founder.
Hi, all. Yes, CEO Emeritus, founder, old man of the staff, and happy to be here to support Kinship Seneca.
And Shane, are you here?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I'm Shane Patterson. I'm the facilities director for Seneca. So I'll be the one overseeing the project. And I've been working with Nick to basically get this all up to where we're at right now.
Great. Okay, Letitia, next slide, please. Seneca was founded with a very simple but powerful mission to help children and families through the most difficult times of their life, and under no circumstances would we give up on them for the reasons that led them to needing our services. We have been in the county since 1984, and some of you may know us as Kinship Center. Seneca and Kinship merged in 2011, forming Seneca Family of Agencies. We have a pretty large community here, including our incredible families who provide homes for children in foster care, our adoptive families, as well as those that we have helped and served through our mental health services, through our clinics, through our mobile response teams. We have served a lot of youth here. We are committed to our children and family, and that commitment has driven every program, every decision, and every service plan we have created for them. We seek to create solutions for our youth and family to help them achieve permanency and to celebrate their successes along the way. Today, our programs reach 18,000 children and families each year across California and Washington state, spanning from behavioral health, education, child welfare, probation, and immigration services systems. Here in the Central Coast last year, we served 1,600 children and family. Next slide, please, Letitia. At the heart of our services is the idea that we will do whatever it takes to help our youth and families thrive, even when faced with tremendous challenges. We support our families every step of the way. We don't just help families adopt children. We don't just bring them into our organization. We literally will walk with them every step of the way. That means that our incredible and motivated staff are supporting them however, whenever, and wherever they are needing us the most. Next slide, please. We included this visual to give you a sense of how we support our families. We help our families, we help them identify needs, and we provide services. When we think about supporting families, we start with relationships. Healing trauma means that at the moment of engagement, a family and child feel welcome and safe. We use trauma-informed principles in our clinical work, with our counselors, with our clinicians, but with every single adult, our administrative staff, our facility staff, everybody also uses those same trauma-informed principles. We engage other supportive adults in these children and families' lives. That could be soccer coaches, it could be teachers, it could be mentors, it could be anybody that they feel are supportive adults, because we believe that if we build their network, they will continue to be supported even after we are no longer involved with their families. We ensure families can reach us at any time for any reason. We do have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week phone line that we answer, and we will be with them in their homes for as long as they are needed. That can mean until 2 a.m. sometimes, and that does happen. We look at an entire system to support the children, including schools. Education is really important, so we want to ensure that their academic needs are supported and sustained. We use our unconditional care approach to address the individual, the family, and the system needs. We ensure families have the basic attachment needs, as well as physical safety, food, housing, clothing, and health needs. All of those are important, and we help to sustain them. When a youth can't return to a family of origin, we use our family finding techniques to help youth and committed adults. We help recruit, train, and support resource families who hopefully can be a forever family for those children. Next slide, please. This is our property. When we first saw this back in December of 2021, we fell in love with it. We saw an incredible opportunity where we can help create a community of family homes where we can bring in our resource families and our foster youth and really help create that healing environment that they need. So we were super excited and fell in love with this. However, we were also heartbroken when we saw the property, because those of you that have seen it know it has fallen into despair. And it doesn't currently reflect the community assets we know it has. So we would like to do something about that. Next slide, please. Across all of our facilities, we make every effort to create a welcome and warm setting for our clients, our families, our staff, and even our community. These are just a few examples of some of the other sites that have come into our care, had fallen into despair at one point, and we helped restore them. In the far left-hand corner on the bottom there, some of you might recognize that facility. That is our current facility in Salinas on River Road. And that actually is one we built from the ground up. But we wanted to give you an example of some of the work that we can do. We really want to preserve the integrity of existing structures and grounds whenever possible. And we will transform those, bringing them up to the level of potential that we think that they deserve along the way. We put a lot of love and care into our facilities. We believe that the service settings themselves are an extension of our therapeutic services and our interventions. We join our neighborhood in every effort that we are coming into to support with community safety and cleanliness. And we even allow our neighborhoods, our neighbors to use our community spaces when possible. And we are also open to our community 24 hours a day in case they need us or have a concern, they can certainly reach us. Next slide, please. Our facility teams under Shane, who's here with us tonight, they have decades, years of experience rehabbing these properties. They bring love and life back into our communities and our surroundings. We are greatly proud of our facility teams and our facilities. So we don't only pour in when we are rehabbing, we actually maintain them to a stellar facility throughout. So I know without doubt that you will see my facility teams on that site all the time, well after the rehab part of it is done. We maintain the properties all the time. Next slide. So thank you again, and thank you for giving us this opportunity. And that's our contact information in case you have any questions.
Thank you, Dawn. I really appreciate that. Is there anyone else from your team that would like to speak before we move on to questions?
I think we're happy to hear whatever questions that there are. But again, just want to thank you, commissioners, for allowing us to share a little bit about who we are and the way that we think about facilities and the services that we hope to bring and expand within our footprint in Monterey County, but also in the city of Marina. So really appreciate this time and your consideration of our application.
Thank you so much, Letitia. All right, going to commissioners. Do you have any specific questions about the presentation you just heard from Seneca, or any other questions you'd like to ask Seneca? Please raise your hand. Commissioner Hurd, go ahead.
Maybe it's me. I wasn't clear. So the mission of Seneca is you are doing all this good work, adoption, therapeutic, foster care, kinship care, mental health services, and all these good things. So when you are renovating these units, are you thinking of creating foster home community where families are moving in to do all these services and extra care?
There's a couple of different ways that we're looking at that. So I'll start by answering this, and then Dawn or Ken, if you'd like to jump in, I'd love to give you the opportunity as well. Our organization provides services across a broad continuum and use our offices and facilities flexibly based on what we understand to be the community need. One of the things that we do have a robust team of folks doing in Monterey County and the Central Coast more broadly is permanency work. So that's a family-based model where we have individuals who might be utilizing our facilities or that are part of our community that are receiving intensive support from our staff in order to help create permanency for the youth that we're serving. And that's right. These are often system-involved youth who are involved with child welfare. And our goal is to get them back with birth family, extended family, or in a permanent home. And that could mean that there are caregivers who are on our campus that are in those homes that are receiving support from us in order to create that permanency for youth, because we believe that every youth deserves to have family, deserves to have permanency. And this is a mechanism that we've seen to be quite effective to be able to help achieve that. Dawn or Ken, is there additional pieces you'd like to add?
If I may, just actually, I do have to give one prefacing remark, because I just have to tell you all, this particular project is dear to me for a couple of reasons. You all know the hotel that's right there on the beach. my wife's uncle designed that hotel a million years ago, and her grandfather was one of the first social workers in Monterey County. We have very, very deep roots in this community. Kinship Center, and some of you may even know Carol Biddler, Carol Bishop, the founders of Kinship Center, has been in the community for 38 years. So that we're not newcomers. The partnership between Kinship and Seneca, we've formally been a single organization for a little over 10 years, I think, but we've worked really closely together as partners since both organizations started in the 1980s. And the purpose of this particular property is we really like models where we don't put, there's an old model of group homes where you would put 4, 5, 6 kids in each group home with either a parents or staff. That is not a model that we prefer. We prefer to have highly trained parents with one child, could be 2 if there was a sibling, if they were siblings, but really highly individualized. And then we bring staff support. And the idea of having several houses together is so that we can have that support there and have respite families there as well. So really one of the possible uses is to use it in that way. And there are a number of ways that when you have a group of homes clustered together, you can provide mutual support across families. So I hope that answers your question, Commissioner. The idea is to have families with one child in each home.
So you mean these children, because one of your descriptions says your goal is to build and sustain strong families that give, children a second chance at life. So the children will stay in these homes, the ones that were abandoned, neglected, and abused.
Well, Letitia, they could. I mean, let me just, they could, but more likely, some of these kids have just had transitional difficulties with their families, and they can go home, and our families would support them through that transition. So we want kids to move to permanency. So, and permanency could be with an adoptive family, or permanency could be going back home with our support. And both of those are goals that we're concurrently trying to do. And I'll stop now and let the people who are doing the work.
Yeah, I think Ken said it best. That's right. Our hope is actually that youth who are in care can return to family as quickly as possible and to achieve permanency in that way. So the parents who are in the homes are likely to be there much longer than the youth, unless they become that permanency option for that youth.
Did that answer your question, Commissioner? Do you have any follow-ups?
I will let Commissioner St. John ask his question, and then I will ask if there are any follow-ups.
Commissioner St. John, please go ahead, followed by Commissioner Walton.
Yes, thank you, Chair. My question is, have you thought of a timeline, assuming that the motions tonight get passed? What kind of timeline would you be on before the buildings would be habitable again and put to use?
Yeah, I am going to look to Shane to help answer that question. I think, we have, as we shared, a remarkable facilities team who works incredibly hard, and this is a big project. Shane, can you share a bit about the timeline that you're anticipating?
Yeah, so, we're hoping, we haven't been able to start anything on it. We've had it for a while. But if this goes through, we're gonna have to pull a few permits. We've already kind of figured out what we're gonna do. We're usually pretty quick because we're not demolishing anything. We're just rehabbing stuff. So could be 6 months to do those, maybe a little bit longer. Just depends on, permitting and stuff for a few of the items, but I would say 6 months.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that's aggressive, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner St. John. Commissioner Walton, followed by Commissioner Rana.
Thank you. I think I just have I guess clarifying questions. When you say the housing is for foster families, are you considering foster youth or foster families with the foster parents and the foster youth move in and out of the homes where the foster parents are there permanently and they live in the homes, and then the foster youth process in and out? Or are you saying it's for biological families that are transitioning, and so this is transitional housing, and as they clear personal, I don't know how to say it, as they transition from needing housing into not needing housing? I'm just asking, I guess, how does that work? Or is it that you would be kinship would be providing staff that would stay in the homes when there were foster youth that needed, like, how does that work? If you don't mind. Thank you.
Yeah, Dawn, do you want to answer this question?
Sure, absolutely. So it's a great question. And currently the way in which we're thinking about it is that we would have resource parents, so foster parents that would be moving into those houses. They are 2-bedroom, 1-bath, so they would have one, and then we would have the extra room for a foster care youth to come into when need be. And that could be for short term if we're working for getting them reunified with their parents. So that's what we are looking for. We, at times, I mean, it could possibly be, maybe, depending on the situation, where, a staff actually is there too, because we're needing some more staff on site to help support. So it could be that we're also having some staff stay there on site as well, and we're just trying to keep the community at large, and we have enough people there to help out when need be. So I think we're still working out all of the details, but our original vision would be that it would be resource families mainly living there, with foster youth coming in and transitioning out when we've worked on their real permanency status.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Walton. Commissioner Rana, please go ahead.
Yes, my question is that what are the implications of this project for the local community neighborhood in terms of increased traffic or congestion, parking congestion, or any other implication that you can foresee?
Jane, do you want to help answer that question?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's a big site. They're all going to have parking on site, so cars will be on site there. We have other programs like this, and they're generally there's not a traffic problem. It's not like it's literally like homes of people that would be living in the houses, and oftentimes they're not all occupied at the same time. So it's not like there's going to be dozens of people there coming and going. It doesn't work like that. It's more of a parent there, whether it's one parent or two parent in a house, with one child in there. And so it's like a typical family that would be living there. So shouldn't have any impact, like it was there before.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rana. And we'll circle back to Commissioner Herr. I see your hand is still up. Did you have a follow-up?
Well, I mentioned, I mean, there was mentioning about ADUs, since the recent state law changed. So are you planning to build ADUs or convert some of the internal units into ADUs?
At this point, our goal is actually just to be able to gain access so that we can do the rehab on the existing homes and make sure that they're brought back to livable condition. I think as we develop our service plan and array, I don't at this point foresee a plan for us to include ADUs on the site And there is the potential for that to change in the future, depending upon, what we see in terms of the effectiveness of this approach. This is a pretty unique model that we utilize, this idea that we have a home that resource families and children are living in, and that we're helping to support and create that permanency and success for the youth. And, as it develops and as we grow this particular campus, there is the potential that there would be necessary other spaces or facilities. But at this point, really our goal is to be able to rehab the facilities that are currently there. And like Shane said, we haven't had the opportunity to even begin the work because we wanted to make sure that this process moved forward in the way that it's supposed to. And Ken or Shane, is there additional that you want to add to that?
No, not. I think that's exactly right. Right now, we want to. I don't know if any of you have been by the site, but my staff are being, or my former staff, are being polite. The site's a wreck. I mean, it is really in bad shape, and it's kind of a blight for the neighborhood right now. So it's going to be a good bit of work to get those houses up to look like they are brand new. And we have a standard for our facilities. Shane holds that standard dear to his heart, and those homes are going to look like new. Years from now, might we come back and talk to Nick about adding ADUs? I guess so, but it's the last thing on our mind at this moment.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions from commissioners? I'm not seeing any. I'll ask one before we go out to the public. I think so under the new supportive housing laws that I'm sure you're familiar with, a lot of that is catered kind of like in more commercial downtown areas. And this obviously is not that. And I'm just curious, and you don't have to answer this, but have you found challenges? I assume there's some great benefit to having supportive housing in the community, right? In an environment that looks much more like what somebody would grow up in. Have you had challenges finding sites as you've looked? And is that one of the reasons you're so excited about this one? Or are there plenty of other opportunity sites that you've seen? And again, you don't have to answer that, but if you're willing to provide any color, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm happy to share because you spoke a little bit to it in terms of the services that we provide. We, whenever possible, not only want to be community-based, but want to be community embedded. The youth and families that we're serving deserve to have all of the same opportunities and successes of any other family in a community. And the more institutional, the less neighborhood, the less community connected our facilities or services, the worse off for our kids and families. And so we absolutely look for opportunities where our kids can experience a neighborhood feel, and that looks and feels like, this particular property. And that's right. It does mean that we're looking in often in housing communities because, we want our kids to have the same experience as any other child. And so that certainly was appealing to us about this particular property.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I definitely have more comments that I want to add, but the time for comments is after we hear from the public. So let's go ahead and go out to the public for comments. If you're a member of the public and would like to speak on this item, you'll have up to 4 minutes to do so. Please raise your hand. See a couple hands going up, starting with Jan Schreiner, and then we'll go to Zoe Carter. Jan, let's get you promoted here so you can speak, and you'll have up to 4 minutes. And it's
all right.
There we go.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of a pause. Thank you so much. This is Jan Schreiner. I just want to say first, thank you for doing this work. And I hope that Marina will welcome the families. And I know a few people up that street, and I know they're very kind. And I was wondering about the outreach. I think you briefly mentioned it, but what kinds of outreach do you do, or do you do any in the community where people are placed? Or they just move in and be good neighbors? It just seems like there is opportunity, and it could naturally happen because Marina is pretty friendly. But I'm just wondering also if there are like an invitation for open house or any other community outreach. And thank you again for doing this important work for the families.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Thank you for that. And thank you, Jan Schreiner, for speaking. We will move on to our next member of the public, which is Zoe Carter. Welcome, Zoe. I'll have up to 4 minutes to provide comment.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, my name is Zoe Carter, and I am proud to be a supporter of Seneca and the Kinship Center. Seneca's commitment to children and families has driven every program and every decision, every service plan they've developed for the youth and families they serve. Today, Seneca's programs reach 18,000 kids and their families each year across California and Washington state, spanning the behavioral health, education, and child welfare and foster care, probation, and immigration systems. This approach to the work that they seek to create solutions for youth and their families help them achieve success while preventing out-of-home placements and reducing lengths of stay in care has driven the growth of the organization and the innovation that is represented in Seneca's programs today. I'm going to go a little off script and just tell you all that I think this is a huge opportunity for the city of Marina to have a place that's supportive for children and families, and a really unique idea and option for the city to really embrace. And I'm hopeful that the neighbors and the community will do that. Seneca does really incredible work, and I've had the honor to support some of their programs. And I just think that the more we can do to support these children in transition, the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. Would any other member of the public like to speak? Please raise your hand. Not seeing any hands, so we will close public comment and bring it back to the commission for comments and discussion. Any commissioners have any just kind of general comments that aren't necessarily questions? Please raise your hand. I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to go ahead and start, and then we'll go to other folks that have their hands raised. You know, I just want to say that I was really excited to read this item. I think it's very unique and different than other items that we as a commission tend to deal with. Obviously, there's kind of an emotional component that I think probably tugs at most people's heartstrings. You know, from my perspective, there are some land use concerns, some genuine land use concerns, you know, dealing with ADUs and right, how do we get to where we want to be? Is it rezoning the property to some other zoning to allow this kind of structure to exist? Is it reinstating the non-conforming use? And I think we've, you know, heard some discussion about that earlier in the meeting. The other thing I want to say, and I think member of the public Zoe Carter touched on it, is that actually both members of the public, Marina is a community that loves to help. And if this does pass tonight, I really hope that Seneca will engage the community and offer a lot of transparency. I personally think you'll be most successful if you do that. And I think you will be surprised at the outpouring of help that you will receive. So just, it sounds like you know Marina well. And so maybe I don't have to tell you that, but if you had any doubt, I just wanted to kind of put that out on the table. Those are my comments for now. Let's go to Commissioner St. John.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say I did go by the property and take a look at it. I didn't go through it's pretty well fenced off, securely fenced off to let it just kind of rest in peace. But I think I'm very, very excited that Seneca has acquired it and is actually going to put it back into new condition, retaining the 1930s feeling that it currently has, or that it's had for the last almost 100 years, really 90 years. So restoring it back to its original grand state, and then putting, children up to say 8 or 9 children into these housing that 90 years ago had very small families and were probably pioneer families for Marina. I think that this is an outstanding opportunity for the city to have this facility in the original site of 90 years ago, but upgraded to the 2020 codes and standards. So my hat is off to Seneca, and if y'all can pull this off in 9 months, you should get Company of the Year for Marina. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner St. John. And Mr. Barrick, I see your hand is up. We will give you an opportunity to speak just before we make a motion if you'd like. But first, I'd like to go to any other commissioners that might want to provide comments. Any other commissioners interested in providing discussion? Please raise your hand. Commissioner Walton.
Thank you. And I just wanted to echo the other commissioners' comments and say really a big thank you for doing this work, for having the mindset and the capacity to create safe spaces for today's youth. It's really an admirable project. I'm so glad that Seneca and Kinship Center are partnering or have partnered and are going to be completing this project. It looks like you have a lot of work to do it, and like Commissioner St. John said, if you could do it within 9 months, you guys really do deserve a big kudos. But you also deserve those kudos now for even pursuing this. So thank you very much. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Commissioner Walton. Commissioner Hurd.
Well, I think Seneca is receiving a lot of support in this meeting. So I will echo all what other commissioners have said. In fact, somebody mentioned earlier about doing some outreach works, and once the project is done and you started getting things going, if you could inform the community, the city, of the activities that you're doing, in terms of with these children, keeping us updated so that we'll be in the loop, then as Commissioner McCarthy has mentioned, Marina likes to help. And by doing that, you could, also not only connect with the city, but also, there could be volunteers out there, who'd be willing to offer help, additional help. So, I think, continuing that bridge and connection would be beneficial.
Thank you, Commissioner Hurd. Any other commissioners have their hands up? I'm not seeing any, so let's do this. A little unusual, but if Seneca would like to provide, kind of a last comment. I did see there was a hand up. I don't know if that was a mistake or not. Please feel. No, are we good?
Well, I actually, if I may, you asked a question earlier, and I've been working closely with Letitia on trying to find sites. And in answer to your question, this is a 1 in a million site. You just don't find sites that are set up like this. And we have looked and looked and looked and looked and found very few. And then just one other thing that I can't part, Commissioner St. John, that's exactly our vision for the site. We looked at it and went, oh my gosh, the feel of those houses is like the home I grew up in, right? It's that early California kind of cottage. So it sounds like it's time to have a barbecue and invite the community, and hope you all will come. And we did want to get through this process to make sure we thought it'd be a little presumptuous to have the barbecue before you all agreed to this. But we're very, very excited about being here and being part of the community.
Thank you. And with that, I'll just add one last comment that I agree that the site's fantastic. I've noticed it myself in the 10 years I've been here. I don't have $2.5 million to to buy something like that, but it's beautiful, and I think the opportunities are fantastic despite its current condition. But let's go to the commission and see if anyone would like to make a motion. Commissioner Rana.
Okay, I move to adopt a resolution approving the conditional use permit 20220 to restore the legal non-conforming residential use of 9 detached units on 2 parcels located at 3289 through 3295 Drew Street.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Yes, I would be happy to second that motion.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Rana, seconded by St. John. Any discussion on the motion? Just a quick comment from me. I just want to thank staff with what I presume was a lot of work on this. I mean, it's again, a unique and probably complex thing that probably was new for a lot of people. And I can only imagine that staff probably had to spend a lot of time on this as well as Seneca. So I appreciate that. And if there's no other comments, we'll go for a roll call vote.
Vice Chair McCarthy,
Yes.
Commissioner Herr,
Yes.
Commissioner Rana,
Yes.
St. John,
Yes.
Commissioner Walton,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That motion passes with Chair Amadeo absent. Welcome to Marina, Seneca. We're happy to have you here. All right, we are going to move on to our next item. If I can get my agenda back up here, bear with me. I believe it's other action items, which there are none. Discussion items, any discussion items from staff or any commissioners? Commissioner Woodson, please.
Yeah, I have one item. I'm hesitant to bring this up, but it came up because it is directly in our code underneath what we just dealt with on childcare and renaming, and that is pets. And the specific guidance and the wording on minimum and maximum and types of pets that are allowable in our housing area, in our homes, in residence areas. And I would just ask that, going back and looking at that all that makes sense, because right now it is limiting, I believe, and I don't have it directly in front of me, that it is limited to, I believe, 2 pets. And it's just, I'm looking at the different cities around the state. They go from 1 dog to 4 dogs to 4 pets to up to 4 small animals and 1 large animal. Some define it including small pets to include gerbils and hamsters and fish and reptiles. I'm just going back to that because, and then the second part of it is that if you exceed those, that there's a special exemption request that would have to be done. And I'm just trying to understand what all of, as a group, is that the way it should be written right now? And then what is that actual special exemption request? And then what are the penalties for violating that?
Commissioner Woodson, I'm not familiar with that section of the code. We can certainly bring that back on the October 27th meeting. Did you want to cite the section of the code so I can look it up tomorrow? Or
Yeah, let me look it up right now.
right, thank you. And maybe October 27th we can just have a quick informational item. So.
While he's looking that up, I'll just kind of throw out that I actually noticed that too. It's interesting that Commissioner Woodson is making that comment. And I don't have it in front of me, but I think it said 2 dogs and 2 cats. I don't know that for me, it doesn't seem like it's something that is creating an issue like it is in other cities. I know other cities, there's problems with hoarding cats, for example, and maybe it is an issue and I'm just not aware of it, but did you find the code, Commissioner Woodson? You're muted.
I can look it up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's amazing when you search dogs in our code, how many places in our city code there are the word dog. 240. I did not know that until just now. So I cannot find it right off the top of my head. I'll I can look it up and send it
Yeah.
to you also. Here it is. Actually, I think it's 17.10.020 permitted uses.
Okay, we can look at that. Oh,
So, and that's just under, that's the condition under R3, but I'm guessing I think it's under conditional uses in each of the districts or each of the zoning classifications.
Yeah, we can certainly look that up, and we can bring that back on October 27th. So
Thanks.
Excellent. Any other discussion items from commissioners or staff?
no, I am getting the affordable housing overlay kind of CEQA environmental review process started. I have started to work with the consultant on the current housing element cycle. And what else? And yeah, those are the kind of big things. And we have other stuff brewing, but those are the big stuff for now. So.
And Guido, I talked to Allison this week, and she had mentioned, I know she had mentioned to the commission previously publicly that the contractor will be reaching out to commissioners to discuss Cypress Knolls. I guess the question is that still happening? And if it is, just kind of a reminder to commissioners to be thinking about what you want your discussion to look like.
Great. Yeah, actually, thank you, Vice Chair. That's yeah. So by way of context, so the American Planning Association has a group of retired directors, people like me, a little bit older, who go up and down the state helping cities out. And so we have 3 retired directors and higher level planners who are going to be interviewing the council members and planning commissioners to get their thoughts on the Cypress Knolls area. And then there'll be a couple workshops and then a final report to council probably in February, March-ish timeframe. So thank you, Vice Chair, for, yeah, so you should be getting a email from a Hanson Hom, David Salazar, or a Brian Mooney. Those are the people who are on the APA committee. So yeah, love to hear your thoughts and love to help restart that process. So
perfect. Thank you. Any other discussion items before we adjourn? Commissioner Woodson?
I raised my hand back up to just the Cypress Knolls thing because you raised the issue of Cypress Knolls. And so that was the other one. This is just an information piece because this is it's a sidebar, but it's pertinent. As part of my son's Citizenship in the Nation merit badge, he wrote to Congressman Panetta about Cypress Knolls about 2 months ago. And just coincidentally, he actually got a response today. And the response basically said that, yes, they are aware of the issues that have been raised by citizens in the city of Marina. He would like to sit down with Strong if he would like to. But he also said that he is reaching out to the Congressman's office is reaching out to the city to discuss Cypress Knolls.
Oh.
So I kind of passed that along because that literally is in the email that that was sent to my son.
Great.
So
there's 12 million reasons why we want the Panettas to be involved. That's how much it costs to clean up that site. So if they're able to kick down some cash, that's great. So yeah.
Would you like me to forward you that email that he got?
Absolutely, yeah. The site is a great site for housing, but there's a lot of old army barracks and houses that have a bunch of lead and paint and a bunch of asbestos, and so it takes a lot of money to clean up that site. So if they're able to help us, that's fabulous. Yeah, please forward on.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Woodson. And if there's no other comments, just because I'd love to be able to say I adjourn before 8 p.m., I will adjourn the meeting. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.